Hello everyone. Continuing on Gelvin Valley. Have a load to take to the market. Hope everyone's having a nice night. I'm just trying to keep from going under on Gelvin Valley. Head up the road. Go sell something. And I'm gonna overtake this car. Imagine that. Tractor pulling a heavy grain trailer and we overtake the traffic. Ooh, and I'm gonna be playing chicken. Let's see if I can pull this off. We did. Phew. Don't tell my mother. You know, I've returned from later versions of Farming Sim to play this one for a little while, and sure seems like, I don't know that it's rained a single time, and I've played probably, oh goodness, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 game days in here. No, my videos have all just been on this one single day as I'm trying to work on the harvest, but I don't think I've seen it rain that whole time. And maybe there's rain in the forecast. I can just check. Can do that real quick. Aha. In 3 more days. Well, whatever. It sure seems like in later versions of the game, whether it's 17, 19, or I don't know how it is in 22. I haven't spent that much time in 22 yet. But it seems like it did a lot more raining. And it could be I'm thinking of the impact of the Seasons mod. Because I think you could tell it how frequently you wanted it to rain depending on the season of the year. But in 15, we have no such encumbrances. I mean, I could pull up the console and get it to rain right now if I wanted, but why would I want to stop harvest? Once again, enjoying the beautiful view. You know, it's almost like, I mean, there's a bay that comes into the map. I'd be curious to know from the map author just what he intended kind of in the back here. It looks like a bay, but then you see the map border, it's almost like a fjord or something. Maybe that's a look he was after. He did say it was partially based on Scotland, so I've never been to Scotland. Maybe there are areas that look that way that have, you know, a large body of water, a loch or something. Maybe the Loch Ness Monster is down there. Judging from the eerie music at the Stonehenge thing clear across the way, I don't think I'll go looking for the Loch Ness Monster. I'll just focus on my wheat harvest and mind my own business. Yeah, I'm getting it down. 15 in the hole. So eventually we won't be paupers anymore. You know, I have never counted them up, but this map, it has such a big map feel, and it's just a standard sized map, you know, which is 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. I think that's the dimensions. And it's got so much variety and scenery and what have you that they put in here. You'd think, you know, that it'd all be taken up by fields, and there are some good sized fields in here, but there's a generous dose of flat areas where you can put in placeables. I haven't put any of those in yet. I do have a bunch of them in here to try, but I just haven't placed any of them quite yet. And I'm hoping by the time we get back that whoa, stay on the hill. It's just I can't press forward and it only goes 11 miles an hour, so if I want to go a decent speed, I have to, well, I guess I could slow down my cruise control. But then, what would I complain about? Alright, back on the open road. So maybe the combine, when we get down there, will be done with that little field. It's maybe a little more palatable to watch versus when we did field 42 at the southwest end. This is little dinky tiny 26. And we're just going to go to another tiny field right after it over to number 25 across the road. And by the way, we're on the main drag for the farm here on the blacktop, pulling the hill. I still need to refer to the map to make sure I take the right road, or I get confused, but the blacktop at least is kind of a cross-shaped in the map. There's a section that goes east-west and a section that goes north-south, and that's pretty well it. I think there's a little bit more up in the town, but it mainly goes east-west, north-south. Just to the right of me up the hill there is the store, or the equipment dealership, where you can buy stuff. Okay, let's get him off the road, because somebody is driving over here. We'll go offload our combine, just on general principles. Except he's dead in the water at the moment. Well, didn't I just do a good job driving? Oh, it is kind of close. There we go. We got most of it in. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Bank of Aganstat. Well, I guess everybody can see just how poor I am. Bank line is maxed 350, which I almost think is maybe a little bit more than if you start on the hard mode. And because of an input binding conflict, it turns me around. Now let me hit the home key. That's the one I intended to turn on my beacons. Off to the next field. I almost think in real life... Oh, I'm not going to make it out of this gate. I forgot. I got to come in the double gates up top here. But I think in real life, you know, we see the hillside continue working even though we're not harvesting. I think in real life, when we took the combines down the road, we always turned off the hillside feature. It was just in case, you know, odds are it wouldn't hurt anything. But there's a lot of obstacles on the road, and you just didn't want the hydraulics moving the entire machine into the path of a low-hanging tree or something crazy. So we tried to turn that off so we could just focus on the road and not have to worry about that feature. I have done so much driving in the left-hand lane. I'm kind of a little bit worried that when I go to work tomorrow, I'm going to head off in the left-hand lane and meet up with somebody. There's another field kind of on the edge, but it's a little more disguised, if you will. And I couldn't fit in here either if I wanted to, but I turned off the collisions here on part of the fence so I could sneak in just to help ourselves out. I'm gonna get that higher. I kind of think he has a hard time on this corner down here. Yeah, see, this field is basically on the edge too, but I think that ridge right there with the fence on top helps it a little bit. It doesn't feel like the edge is quite as close, but it's almost as close as it is in the field we were just in. Yeah, so as I thought it would, it got tangled up, confused on the corner. It tries. So we'll send it off and get our tractor over. Now the tractor can go out down here, get our beacons going. I sure would like to know why my speed is capped at 11 when I push on my up arrow. Must be something I hit that limits the forward speed. Just don't know what it is. But I'll reboot eventually and hopefully it'll turn it off, whatever it is. Alright, well, actually let me back him up a little bit to leave a room when the combine comes around, assuming it comes around. Yeah, looks like he's trying to negotiate the corner, so we'll let him go and we'll go try to work on this. Oops, I just took it off again. Yeah, in the last video I was kind of talking about how these windrows, in real life, with balers and just grass being the way it is, even though the windrow may be fluffier and bigger than the size of the windrow pickup on the baler, a lot of times it'll end up just pulling it all in anyways because the grass is all connected. The same it can be true though of the combine. I know I've mentioned on these videos before in the grass seed farm where I worked, there we would cut and windrow the grass before harvest, and then the combines had this built pickup attachment on the front, and that's how they would pick up the windrows. So sometimes that'd be the same thing, and it wasn't so bad in the variety of grass that was on lone oak, which tended to be, at that time, it was more fine fescue or ryegrass, I think in later years they had. But the neighbor's farm that I worked on, I learned something totally different. He, when I first went to work for him, he talked to me about, and he showed me in detail how to unplug the cylinder on a combine. And honestly, it was something I had never done before because it had never happened. And I kind of thought he was half joking or was just being thorough in his training. But sure enough, I mean, he had a farm. His grass seed mainstay was orchard grass. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen orchard grass. It's very tall and very tough. It thrashes really tough. And these were pretty good sized Massey Ferguson combines that we had, at least comparable to the ones that we had on Lone Oak. And wow, did they grown taking in the orchard grass crop. And you could just see it looking out ahead in the windrow as you picked it up into the machine. The stalks of grass, orchard grass, were so long you could see the windrow tickling, sometimes nearly 10 feet ahead of where you were picking up. Meaning some of the grass you were picking up was reaching clear far ahead and grabbing and pulling other material. And for the most part, I mean, this wasn't a problem, but, whether it was this kind of grass or any of the stuff that we had on Lone Oak, the ryegrass or fine fescue, sometimes when you were windrowing, which was at night, you would screw up and you would leave a big old mess pile. And we called them wads. We tried to, I should probably go up here to take care of this. We tried to clean those up as we did, but sometimes when cutting conditions were horrible, it was kind of hard to avoid, or, if the knives on the sickle were dull, or if you were missing a sickle and didn't have a replacement in the field. I mean, there might be any number of reasons for why windrowing would cause wads or what have you, or just flat out ineptitude on the part of the driver. That might have been my problem half the time. But anyway, you'd have this wad, which then would sit there and it would partially dry. And when the combines would come through, it kind of posed a problem. And it was kind of a mark of skill if you, driving a combine, if you were able to, from the seat of the combine, gingerly work on that wad and bring it in bit by bit into the machine. And there were some techniques you could use to do that in terms of how you would grab it bit by bit. But you most of the time, I would chicken out because I didn't want to plug. I never plugged the cylinder, the threshing mechanism of the combine, but I had plugged the header or the feeder housing. And, when it's a hot, dusty day and you got to leave your air conditioning to go out and start pulling straws, I mean, that's a royal pain and it's hot and dusty and sweaty. And, well, what I would typically do on those cases, if I had a big wad, is I would just get out of the machine and feed it in by hand. And I know there's probably some people will say that's dangerous and a little crazy, but what can I say? I preferred that versus unplug the cylinder or unplug anything at all. But this neighboring farmer that I worked for, he wasn't kidding. And that's just something I learned with orchard grass. And as careful as I tried, I mean, I made it a few days before I plugged the cylinder. It was kind of funny to see my boss. I think he was a little bit more aggressive with the equipment. Probably knew better what they could handle and what they couldn't than I did. I saw him have to get out several times to unplug it. But eventually my number got called too, and yeah, it just became something you had to deal with, and it happened enough times that you even got good at it. I can still remember going out. He had this massive wrench that was used to open the concaves. The concaves is a circular piece of steel, a steel grate, if you will, that's kind of on the underside of the cylinder. And the cylinder is this big old drum with rasps on it or spiked teeth, and the straw and the grain and all the material passes into the cylinder coming off the feeder housing, the combine, and it goes under the cylinder but above the concaves. And that's where, it depends on the type of crop you're doing as to the distance between the cylinder and the concaves. But that's how grain gets threshed. And the cylinder is moving at pretty high speed. I'm trying to remember where we had it set in the grass. Oh, if my uncles ever hear this, they may correct me. I almost think I remember seeing readings up to, was it 750, 800 RPMs? And that also depended on the variety of grass. I don't remember what it was in the orchard grass, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of how we had it set in the Fine Fit SQ. But in the years since, they no longer use a conventional thresher up there in Lone Oak. They now have rotary combines, and I'm not sure. I don't have a clue how those are set up or what the rotor speed is, or oh, I'm not paying attention to my combine. Maybe before I do the last strip. He got hung up on the fence. Poor fellow. Come on down. And each time this happens, it's kind of doing damage. Oh well. I don't know if it'll be able to negotiate this corner. Maybe it will. We'll kind of leave it alone for a little bit. But working for the neighbor, yeah, I plugged this cylinder several times. One time, I'm practically ashamed to admit this, but it just happened so fast where, like I say, this stuff was tough. And I'm not going to say I was the best operator, I wasn't. I had enough experience to run the machine, but definitely wasn't the best at it. Just moderately good enough to get the crop in, I guess you could say. But on one of those windrows, and I'll never forget it, I still remember the field I was in, the place where I was, where it happened. Most of the time, when you plug something in the machine, if you're paying attention, you have enough time to turn the threshing mechanism off or to turn the header off or something, to where the machine doesn't go down. And I suppose if you left it there to grind enough, I suppose in theory, if it could even start a fire if it's ratcheting around in there and there's tight material and it heats up. Or you could bust something by winding it so tight that it breaks a shear pin or something like that, and then you got something to fix. But in this case here, there was no shear pin apparently on the cylinder, and whatever it was that I took in was so big, wet. I just don't remember that part. All I knew is I killed the combine from a full throttle in the middle of harvest, killed it on the spot. And it was quite disconcerting to go from, the hum of the machine at full throttle and everything to literally nothing. It was really kind of freaky. And, I worried that I had broken something or what have you, but nope, I hadn't. So it was just a matter of cleaning her out and starting it back up and making sure everything chunked all the way through and keep on going. I was pretty freaked out about that. It's the only time in my life I've ever done that. But I'm guessing anybody else that's run farm machinery or learned how to work on it or around it has their own story. It's just, I guess we all know that, if you have no experience at something, you need to learn somehow. And the only way you can learn is by doing. I mean, I remember literally taking time to read, maybe because I was just psycho. I love the farm machinery. But reading the operator's manuals and the service manuals just to learn about the machine and how it ticked a little bit as much as I could. But no amount of reading is going to teach you beyond the basics of how to run the machine or operate it or be any good at it. So everybody knows you kind of need to do it. The trouble is when you screw up, which everybody does, it can be just very expensive. So I know I cost my dear uncles few shillings, but I hope they got their money's worth out of me too. I just appreciate those days and having a place to work, to learn how to work as a team. It was just good, clean work on the farm. It isn't what I'm doing now, but it surely didn't hurt me a bit. I wish every kid could have an opportunity to do manual labor and just work. I think it's good for all of us to know how to work, which can be very satisfying. And sometimes I think people look at work as almost as it's debilitating, something they are enslaved to do. And yeah, maybe it's like so many things, it's all in the attitude as to how you look at it. But it can really be something very satisfying. I think I've mentioned my day job is accounting, and maybe it's a highly intangible profession, working with financial statements and tax returns and all that jazz, something that makes a lot of people's eyes glaze over. And it's all in the computer anymore. When I started in the profession, we had a lot more paper around, but most everything we do now is in the computer, so maybe that's one reason I so appreciate farming, or even a silly game like this. There's my combine. He's going around and around the field, and eventually I'll see he's done. And it's a little bit harder to get that high, if you will, in my day job, as it's just in the computer, and you don't quite see or measure progress quite the same way. But it's still satisfying when you can help people and work hard even doing it. Maybe with this load here, we'll finally crack 15 grand in the hole. Every other farm out there, they're watching their money spin up. I'm trying to get my negative number to come down. I think this is a long time. The bank has been patient with me, but they're probably losing their patience. Although I bet they sure do like taking my money as interest. I would say that's an interesting dynamic I've learned in my career in accounting, when it comes to bankers. And I know there's extenuating circumstances and all that. But one farmer that I knew one time, he put it this way. He said, when I had nothing and I badly needed a loan, I couldn't even get a banker to talk to me. But once I had some success and had money in the bank and I didn't need a bank, they were falling all over themselves trying to give me money. I say give, loan him money. That just seems kind of some of the harsh realities of life. Who knows how a particular banker measures risk, who they're willing to take a bet on. But I think we all know you can eat a little gold if you want to borrow gold to make more gold. But in the world that we have in here, the bankers never ask questions. They just let you max out the loan. I should learn a little bit more about the Bank of Haggenstadt mod. I kind of think it broadens a few more banking features in there. I think I screwed up in there. I could have got a much larger loan kind of at the beginning, but I took a small one and then it capped me for some reason. I think it gives you one gimme loan, if you will, and I kind of messed it up and just took a tiny loan. So now it won't let me modify it, but that'd be another good mod idea if you could somehow, the banker could see what kind of assets you hold, whether it's cash in the bank, real estate holdings, and equipment value, some of those kinds of things, and then maybe some random factor or whatever in there as to how much they'd let you borrow. It'd be nice if they let you borrow. It's kind of in the game here, the way the borrowing works is kind of like what's called a line of credit type arrangement. And a line of credit is set up at the bank where you have a certain amount that you can borrow. Like if you have, say, a $1 million line of credit, an operating line of credit, you can borrow at any given time up to $1 million, and then you can borrow and repay kind of as you use it over the year, and they just charge you interest on it. And there may be certain terms and conditions you gotta meet, certain covenants, if you will, to maintain. But other than that, you can just kind of borrow and repay. Well, that's kind of how the loans in Farming Sim work. But what they don't incorporate that as real life feature is what's called term debt. And there's a lot of I would say probably most, at least that I'm aware of, when you purchase a piece of real estate, you're not getting that on a line of credit. I mean, I suppose if a guy has a large enough line of credit, maybe he could buy a piece of real estate on a credit line, but most of the time it's termed debt, which means a specific debt instrument for that property that has its own interest rate, its own payment scheme, and it's collateralized by the particular property that it was used to finance. So if you screw up and you don't make your payments, you breach the covenants and they call the loan, well, they can take your property. I don't know how hard it'd be to make a mod like that. I don't think Bank of Haggenstad is set up that way, but it probably has a few different features maybe. I haven't looked into it all that much. I do know that it allows you to buy and sell farmland. I think there's also a rental option of farmland, and I've never really used the rental of land option. Maybe that's something that could be done in here where some of these larger, flatter fields, the ones that I really like to have, they're so expensive. But I don't know, maybe I could rent it for a reasonable cost and then make it pay over a few seasons and eventually buy it. Sky's the limit on what we could do. Yeah, it looks like it's headed into the abyss if you follow that road. The road kind of comes up to a point and then it tapers off on the other side. It looks like I'm at 93% on my combine. So I'm going to go unload him while we're here. And I think I captured what he had. Turn off my indicators. And I think I'm already at another half hour for an episode. The words of my friend are still ringing in my ears to not have too long an episode, so I'm going to end it there. For anybody that suffered through it, thank you for watching my video, and wish you a good evening, and you take care now. Bye-bye.